All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. If you saw the previous videos, we did that marathon of a tournament up at Clear Lake, and that was quite exhausting. So took a little break, took a little breather, but I'm back, I'm recharged, I'm rejuvenated, I'm ready to fish. But first, got to make a quick announcement. New merch up on the website. I will link it in the description below. New colors of a favorite t-shirt that we came out with last year. This was the Mondo Bass tee. Has the Gyutaku artwork. Kind of looks like a Clear Lake bass eating a bluegill. And restocked this guy. And also came out with two new colors. So I've got the new color Army Green on. And then also a Mondo Bass tee in granite. So again, I will link the merch in the description below. And yeah, another day of fishing. Well, tomorrow, it's actually the day before fishing. I just finished rigging everything up. And I'll say this too, man, some of you guys might get this, but it's amazing fishing one body of water to the next, how different you pack. Different rods, different baits, different setups. It's crazy. You think everything would just kind of be the same, especially going from Clear Lake to where we're going tomorrow, which will be the Delta. But I changed over a ton of stuff, almost everything, I want to say. So I figured to start this video, we'd go over the 9 setups that I have rigged up for fall bass fishing out on the California Delta. And you know, it's spring, summer, late summer. I feel like I have a lot of the same baits roughly tied on, give or take a rod or two, but I feel like fall time and winter time are really when my bait selections for the Delta start to change. So wanted to give you guys an overview of what I've got ready for tomorrow out on the Delta. We'll start with rod number 1. It is a bladed jig, but going with a little bit different color variation right here. We've got a slobber knocker with a power stinger on the back, more shad bait fish color. We'll be dealing with most likely some cleaner, clearer water, especially this time of year in the Delta. So I want to go with more of that white color. So that's rod number 1. Oh, and also, it's not like these 9 rods are set in stone. I've got a couple of boxes and bags of plastics that have other baits too, other colors, other trailers, stuff like that. So if these don't work, I mean, we won't be shy to change over and see if maybe the fish want something else. But anyways, number 2, this guy usually only makes an appearance, I'd say, from now until about March. And that is the old cheater jig. Dubbed this the cheater jig because it seems like this is one of the baits that during this time of year can really get bit. And not just any bite, you usually get a better quality fish with this jig. Right now, fish are eating bait fish, but also crawfish. So as that water clears up, the grass starts to die off, you can start fishing more rocky structure out on the Delta. You can get away with the jig, and this is my go-to jig for the Delta. Number 3, I think this is a staple for everybody fishing in the fall, but especially those going out on the Delta, is a jerkbait. Really like this color. It's a little bit deeper diving jerkbait. You can't underestimate fishing a little bit deeper in the fall, especially with clearer water. Some of those fish will actually get a lot closer to the bottom, I've noticed, in deeper water. So a jerkbait that dives a little bit deeper, I think could be money in the right situation. Number 3, gotta go with a jerkbait. This might be the last month or two of this particular bait, but during the fall when these fish are eating topwater bait fish, you still can't go wrong with a frog. There will still be some vegetation out there. You want this guy also on low tide, and you know, even though it's fall and the weather's cooling down, the mornings are cooler, you're still gonna get up into the 80s out on the Delta this time of year. So definitely will keep a frog in hand with me this time of year as well. Number 5, this has been kind of our money bait as of lately on the Delta, so why put it away? But it's just that bone CHOPPO. Saw a couple of comments from the previous Delta videos, maybe to weed out some of the smaller fish that we've been catching on it, upping the size. So I'm taking your guys' advice. I've upped the size of the CHOPPO. We've gone to a 110, so maybe we'll get a bigger bite on average with a bigger size. We'll see. Now, this is certainly a bait that goes out of my particular comfort zone, but I know a lot of people have good success on this particular bait. And I think the only time I really caught some good fish out on the Delta with it in particular was during the fall. So we've got a big wake bait. This is the Toxic Baits Whippersnapper. As some of you guys know, the SpongeBob SquareBill, thanks to Mike Ensign. But I'm thinking that guy, low light first thing in the morning. We got to give her a toss, give her a whirl, see if we can maybe get some big fish to commit. Yeah, going outside the comfort zone a little bit for tomorrow, and we'll be giving this a toss for sure. Number 7, I did mention the grass is starting to die off, but that doesn't mean there's a depletion of grass. There's still a lot of grass out there, a lot of healthy grass. And as that water tends to really clear up this time of year, sometimes these fish are spooky. Sometimes they're skittish and they'll bury themselves in that grass. And the only way to get to those fish is with a big punch rig. This is a 1.5 ounce weight. I've got 1 3/4 ounce weights in there, which I may very well have to change to. But you find yourself in a situation out there where you're really not getting bites, or more so quality bites. This is probably a good bet to throw. Get up in the grass, punch this bait through there, and you might find yourself with a big fish or two. Number 8, common theme. I think we're all seeing this as it turns to fall, as the days get shorter, it gets cooler, the grass is dying off. We can see and fish more rock. So that's when we bring back a little squarebill. This is one of my favorite colors I've used out on the Delta. It's kind of a green pumpkin orange. I think it represents a lot of things from bait fish to crawfish to bluegill. So I think it's just an overall good color for the Delta. You can fish it in dirty water, clean water, etc. So gonna have a squarebill with us. And last but not least, you gotta always have this with you on the Delta, or really anywhere in the country, but you gotta have that backup rod, that confidence rod. If you need a bite, it's been real tough, you're imagining In-N-Out Burger, you gotta have a drop shot with you. Been really favoring this green pumpkin hitworm lately. I like the shape, I like the size, and I like the bulbous tail at the end. Weedless setup, of course. So that's it. Those are the 9 starting lineup baits rods for tomorrow out on the Delta. Again, fall fishing, cooler temps, shorter days. I'm guessing cleaner water. We'll have to see when we get there. But do I think all these baits will work tomorrow? No. But the point is, you got to have all your bases covered, be efficient out on the water, be able to switch, be able to change rods, presentations on the fly, and figure out that pattern, get a hint, get a clue, and hopefully lead yourself to a productive day out on the water. So that's going to be the video. I'm going to get the rest of my stuff packed up, loaded up in the truck, and I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning for a fall day of bass fishing out on the California Delta. Hey, little ones. Blowing that bait. The bass or striper? Oh, a little striper. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Treble hook bait, striper. Not safe. They're fresh little guys. Alright, I'm not doing that again. It just takes too long to take the little guys off the CHOPPO. The first little blow up saw though was bigger fish. See, that's definitely how you know it's fall bass fishing out here too. See these big busting striper boils. A little striper typically, I mean there can be some bigger ones, but usually they're that little juvenile size. Let's just get started right here. Man, you can see the tide is pretty strong. It's moving out. I mean, this area in general has a stronger tide, but you can see that current being so strong, how it would influence these fish to maybe set up and feed. Oh, little old guy. There is a ton of bait in the system right now. Holy smokes. Look at the graph. That's pretty wild. Well, 8:11. Give you a little update right here. Not much to show for the day. I think the only thing that maybe makes me feel a little confident still is the fact that today's tide, starting tide, was not exactly what I'd like to see for a tide. I'd rather start really high. We started pretty much just at the very last bit of outgoing, so essentially we're starting this morning with a really low water level, and I'd imagine once we hit about 10-11 o'clock that tide starts to really move in, the water rises. I think that's when we'll have our better bite window, but so far it's been pretty stingy. Now I'm kind of thinking I should have stayed and whacked on the stripers for a little while. Just about to leave. Oh, he came off. Son of a gun. Wasn't a big one. Poppin' frog, eh? Okay. There we go. Golly. Right on the bank. Not a big one, but I'll take them. First one of the day, almost 9 o'clock. On the CHOPPO. That's a fish. Had one. Finally. A little cheater jig. Look at that. He stole 3 appendages off of that thing. That had to be a little one. Well, finally got a bite on something other than a topwater. That's good. Giants. Hey, we'll take them. Cheater jig to the rescue. Way up shallow. If I find clean bank, clean rocks, then I'm definitely throwing this jig. Just kind of more grass out here than I expected. I mean, you can even see it in the distance there. That's what a lot of the bank's been looking like. And rightfully so, on lower tide, you're going to have more of that grass bunched up. And look how low the tide is right now. It's a solid 3.5, 4 feet from that high tide last night. Obviously, there's no grass on this rocks, so if we were at a higher tide, we could theoretically fish this jig a lot more efficiently, even with the presence of grass. It's just so low right now that you can't. Well, maybe that's where the bigger ones are. Didn't take too long to pick up the punch and get bit, so that could be a clue. Thank you, sir. I mean, even though it's still morning, tide is low, and that is typically when I'd punch. It's just, I don't know, it seems like this year it's been more in the afternoon when we've had a lower tide, and the bite gets tough, and the punch really seems to be the ticket. Can't shy away from it. It's a junk fishing kind of day, guys. body. Should have done one of those bait challenges. Catch one on every single bait we tied on. What's that, 5 different baits we've caught a fish on? Granted, nothing big, but we didn't land the frog one, but we got bit on the frog, got bit on the jig, bit on the punch, bit on the choppo, and now the crankbait. Sometimes that's what it takes too, just to get bites out here, is junk fishing. Fishing the moment, fishing right bait in the correct situation. Never mind, he's micro. Oh yeah. Not loving this area back here. Unfortunately, it looks like it's been nuked pretty good. Little follower. I'm still looking at it. He won't give up on it. Man, I don't like it back here. Everything's too dead. I mean, obviously with the spraying and such, but I hate to say it, but I feel like where we started this morning, I mean, even though it was low light and I couldn't really tell, but it appeared to be a lot cleaner water and some healthier grass. So I'm thinking I might need to head back that way. Just a bummer when you make these really long runs in the kayak and you get there and it's not what you thought it'd be. It might be under this stuff. I just saw a little one bust something right there. Standing up, it's low tide still. I mean, it's coming in, but it's still low water, and I haven't seen anything cruising out in the middle or in the open, which, you know, makes sense. Less water, these fish are more vulnerable, so they might be under the cover. All right, guys, 12:38 p.m. and the Delta is pretty dang stingy today. You know, when this video releases, I think it'll be true fall conditions out here, but honestly right now it doesn't feel like the conditions I was talking about last night. Still a lot of vegetation, a lot of grass, a lot of algae in the system. I mean, there is some clean banks, some rocks we can fish, but I would say right now this is not exactly what I was picturing describing Delta fall conditions. The water isn't as clear as I thought it'd be, and that's when these fish really group up, and I haven't found that yet. I haven't found fish grouped up. I mean, we're catching them on some of the baits, but no consistent bite, no pattern. But yeah, almost 1 o'clock, tide is moving in. You can see it's still pretty dang low, but I'm hoping with this incoming tide, this water rising, we'll get on some kind of pattern, some kind of bite. Gonna grind it out for probably a couple more hours and then call her a day. Tough one so far. Oh, I had one. Dang it. Cranking. Yeah, cranking's the deal. It's 2 bites with it. Oh, it's a good one too. Thought he was way bigger, just had me in the grass. That's 2 bites and like a couple of casts, so that means something. Thought he was way bigger. It's kind of sad. That's probably the smallest fish I've netted in my life. I just thought he was bigger. That's a good sign though. I think that's a real positive sign. I don't think that's a coincidence. That's 2 bites in like 2 minutes with the crankbait over here on this grass flat. I had a couple of small followers on the jerkbait. They just weren't committing to it, so maybe just gotta get them to react more. And the crankbait will be the deal. Of course, I say all this, I probably won't get another freaking bite on it. Nope. There. Right around the grass clumps. You wouldn't think to throw a crankbait here, but it's good to try. Oh, that's a good one. That's an actual net-worthy one, I think. Whew. Thank you, sir. Alright, they're getting bigger. See how much I can long arm that one. Giant. He jumped like he was a giant. Surprised we haven't caught the striper yet, just by chance. I think the incoming tide is definitely the better tide today. Choked it. At least we're getting some bites now. Some consistent bites. That's why you gotta always put a full day out on the delta. I was ready to quit around 12, but I knew that there's a good chance the bite would turn on when this tide started to move in. Can never be too sure. You gotta fish both tides to give yourself the best chance, I feel like, out here. Three o'clock, guys. That was a brutal one. Oh my goodness. Tough day. Probably the toughest day I've had out on the delta in a long time. Usually you can go out there and just get small ones, numbers, but today even struggled with getting numbers. Just to quickly recap the day, we had all of our fall baits ready, got out on the water around 7 a.m. Nice cool morning, beautiful morning. One thing you gotta love about this time of year is the comfortable conditions. It's nice to have cooler weather in the morning. It's nice to actually wear a hoodie for the first few hours of the morning, but started off on a really low tide, and I wasn't in love with that starting tide, but it was going to change throughout the day, so I wasn't too concerned. Just might have to wait out the bite. But I went a long time in the morning throwing different baits. I mean, I switched between 5 or 6 different baits, throwing top water, throwing moving stuff, reaction, slowed down with a jig. And one thing I did notice is these conditions today honestly weren't completely representative of what I consider fall fishing on the delta. I think in another couple of weeks, and probably when this video goes live, the conditions will be just right. The grass is starting to die off. There was some clean bank. The water wasn't as clear as I thought it would be. So just to be honest, I don't think these were perfect fall conditions, but definitely a transition period and they're getting there. But with all that said, it was a junk fishing kind of day. Just had to grind out anything I could. I think our first bite of the day was actually on the frog. Set the hook into him, had him halfway to the boat, he popped off, whatever. Second bite of the day, I think, was on the CHOPPO, another small one. Picked up a couple of random fish on the jig. The old cheater jig came into play. Picked one up on the punch, and then picked up a few on the crankbait. Once we got way back into one of the sloughs I wanted to check out, unfortunately a lot of the grass was sprayed. It was dead, just kind of that rotting grass, brown water. Not feeling it and not getting bit really, so ended up jamming back towards where we launched. That there was some cleaner water, some greener grass around this area, so just kind of kept that in the back of my mind. And long story short, most productive bait of the day from all 9 different rods was the SQUAREBILL. For whatever reason, they wanted that SQUAREBILL ripped through the grass up on the riprap. I think a lot of these fish were just kind of reacting reacting to the bait. It was a tough bite. I mean, even when we finally got onto some squarebill fish, it took a lot of casts to finally get bit, and unfortunately most of them, as the delta is this year, were pretty dang small. But you know what, can't complain. Fun day out on the water. You can't beat a day out on the water. It is beautiful out there. It is a fun time of year to fish. The fish are schooling up, they're chasing bait. It is just about to get into that period of fall fishing, in my opinion. So today we were a little bit premature, but I will say when I come back here in a couple of weeks and the conditions are most likely prime fall conditions, these same baits will be tied on, and who knows if they'll bite one, couple, all of them. You just don't know. Yeah, we'll just have to take our shot another day. As always, guys, I thank you for watching, for coming along, and I will catch you guys in the next one.